Hello everybody that watches this later. Hopefully my audio is all working. I'm just going to hang out till someone shows up. Hello. Hello, hello. Sorry, I decided to go live and then set up, because that's the way you do things. Hi, everybody. Yotis, Jeff, Heliospheric Dread. I hope everybody is well. Tonight, I was... Oh, I'll get to that. It's not as cool as you think. Tonight I have a an upcoming performance at the Carnegie Museum here in Pittsburgh next month, and I don't want to do an improvised piece. So the last 2 or 3 days I've been sort of figuring out how to do non-improvised modular music, which I've never really done before. Outside of doing recording parts in Ableton and then using Ableton to chop stuff up, I've never done non-improvised live modular music. So I'm using the, let's see if I can. Over here, this is the Korg SQ64. I'm using this as my sort of sequencer, and I'm trying to do as much as I can. So, and I want it to be entirely live, but I also don't want it to be sort of made up as I go along. I want it to have some structure and some themes so that I don't look like a fool in front of a bunch of fancy rich people at the museum. So, I've been doing this last couple days, and I figured, well, let's turn the camera on and see how everybody's doing. You guys already asked about this. That's fair. Sorry if I'm going to make everybody sick here for a minute. Actually, what I can do, I think, is I can do it electronically. Whoa. There we go. This is the Mixathon. This was the big mixer. I've been using this for a while, but I had tape over the graphics, which made it harder to use because those are sort of the dividers between the channels. But I had tape over these graphics because I didn't want to show the graphics, the design language for Taiga, which, as you can tell, are exactly the same. So this is... It's my mixer. I've been using this for a while. It's nothing new. This mixer project has been canceled, though. We're not going to do this. We have something way cooler. This sort of taught me a lot about what I want and what can be used in performance. So I learned a lot from this. Like I said, this originally, there's another module, another 52 HP module that goes above it. That's sort of the other half of this. So the new project sort of incorporates ideas from both and is much smaller and much more reasonable, which I think is the thing. So anyway, that's enough of that. It's not. I don't think it's particularly exciting today. It is a huge mixer. I wish it was smaller, but currently it's not. We'll see what we can do about that. It does sound beautiful, though. Absolutely beautiful. Although over the weekend I was using it, and I was upstairs in my dining room, and my dining room has, in the wintertime, it gets very staticky up there. And I touched one of my guitar pedals. One of these two, I don't know which one. And I shocked myself, and I blew out the first channel of the mixer. Which sucks. So I took it into the shop today, and it turns out it was just one op amp at the input of channel 1, and all was well. So that is good. Well, I could do that. You want to see a... Close my little screen. Go. There's Toad. I don't know if you can see. If I cover it a little bit, you can see its eye is the LED. It's so good. So good. All right. So anyway, like I said, the whole point of this was to sort of hang out and sort of let you guys watch me as I try to figure out how to perform live like an adult with electronic modular synthesizers. So the way I've set this up is I've created this case, and I'm going to have to stick with this for a while. So I wanted it to be exactly what I needed for the show. I have the East piece up here. It's probably going to do most of the bass kind of stuff. And that's this. So I have the East piece is most likely going to be the bass, although I do have it doing some of this kind of stuff too. So I don't know. It just sounds really good. And Taiga doesn't really sound like East piece. So when I want this kind of East Coasty sound, I go for the East piece. I do have two Taigas in my case. This one is an early prototype, and I'm going to swap it out with one of the pre-production units that's sitting off to the right over here. But for now, this is doing everything I needed to do. I actually haven't really programmed too much for it yet. Yoda says, still using the SQ64. Yes, the SQ64 is going to drive my entire live performance, so I'm counting on it to work. I learned how to save sequences, which I'd never done before, because I always sort of improvise. So I knew how to make sequences and everything, but I didn't know how to save them, which I had to record something 4 times and delete it 3 times before I actually learned how to save things properly. So that was a pain in the butt. But I figured it out, and it's all good. So now I have some sounds going here. I want things to sound very natural, and I really want it to be as organic of a sounding performance as possible. I want it to all the sounds to sort of be able to stand on their own as natural world sounds. But we will see how well that works, because I start jamming on these, and then I get excited, and things start sounding less and less real. But that's okay too. Electronic music, I like when it sort of lives in the middle there. You're like, that could be a real thing, but I don't think it is. That's the stuff that makes me smile. So this is what I have so far. Like I said, the bass is the East Beast. This section is my drum machine, which is I put the original low-pass gate in here. I'm going to use this. Tonight I'm going to use it as a kick. I'm probably going to switch it out for the llama. But tonight this is in here because I had the space to put it, and I hadn't used it in a long time. I wanted to hear it. So that's what I'm using for my kick tonight, and I have that going into a crow, which this crow has something. This is the problem with prototypes. This crow has something funny with it. It's the level on it's really low, so I have to take it to the shop tomorrow and figure it out. And I know it's low because I have a second crow in here that is correct. But that's all right. Then I have two elephants that are doing the drippy sounds. One's doing the low drip, and one's doing the high drip sound right now. Each one of them has their own crow. And I have these going through crows because I wanted to round off the initial strike of the drum, and I wanted them to sound like water droplets. So I rolled off the high end pretty significantly. And you can see I can turn that back on. You can hear the sort of strike of the drum head, and I didn't want that, so roll that stuff way off. Nice thing about this performance is I have time to build a system that works exactly for it, which is cool. Create Halio said, "Man, two Taiga, you're fancy. I wish. This one doesn't really work that well. But I have another one over there. I'm going to swap it out. So I'm drunk with Taigas. Though I'm not. Yeah, so these drums are all submixed then in the mono 2+2 Okapi, and I figured I would use a mono one here because these are sort of the low frequency drum sounds, and I figured that way I could just put them right down the middle. And these are also the drum sounds that probably aren't going to have a lot of reverb on them, which is why they're sort of together. Down below I have sort of the higher frequency drum sounds and sort of the weirder drum sounds. And these are two narwhals. I have one going through a wolf just so I can shape the high frequency, and I want these to sound as different as possible. I have a second one then going through a crow that I can then modulate the filter cutoff of, which I am doing with an LFO from Taiga. Then what else do we have? Oh, the wolf and a local florist. This turned into a really pleasant sound. Let me see if I can pick this one out. I turned most of the stuff off here. So this is noise from Taiga going into the wolf that I'm using as a VCA, but I'm just hitting it with a trigger from one of the drum channels of the Korg SQ64, and then I'm using the drum trigger gate length in the SQ64 to vary the length of the sound. Then I'm shaping the sound with the EQ. And then it goes through the local florist where I'm doing the local florist thing to it. And then it's an all wet signal, although bits of it, depending on the patch for the song, it can sort of, I can play with that. but I just wanted sort of a scraping sound that wasn't just pure noise. So this to me kind of sounds like a bit of scraping. Capricious Blackblock asks, local florist still coming? Ordered my Taiga from a dealer. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you ordering it. The local florist we're not doing, but we do have a different version of it coming sometime in 2023. That is sort of two local florists kind of together. It's a bit of a different vibe, but it sounds very, very good. It's the idea of it is it's playing with feedback networks and interacting between the two florists, and then we also have another circuit in there as well. And the idea is that you can set all the feedback paths and then sort of ride the edge of those. I think it sounds very nice. Yes, the Local Parks. Local Parks is an oscillator that I'm using, which I'm sure I will get to in a bit. This is more of a square wavy oscillator that has some pretty weird waveforms in it. Mostly taken from the second oscillator of the Voltage Lab 2, which is why I'm in no hurry for this to sort of get out into the world. Okay, so that's the sound, which is just a wolf and a local florist. So I thought, what a fun voice. And then I have a voice which is an elephant into a toad. I can just make it make some sound here. No, it doesn't want to make sound. Weird. So this is sort of the point of doing all this patching. I can see it, and it's hitting the compressor. You can hear it. Duck this, but I don't hear the actual sound, which is very odd. Let's see if it's the channel. No. Very strange. Very strange indeed. Let's try this. Like I said, I did zap my machine over the weekend. Perhaps if we swap out a patch cable. Oh, I selected the wrong channel. I added sequences to the kick channel. Let's try it now. There we go. I think this sounds fantastic. The elephant into the toad, super drippy. Obviously, a dump truck full of reverb on it, but that's sort of the thing that I like. There's a cable blocking the toad's eye. I can't control that. Pull it a little bit. There we go. So those are super low bass. If you have headphones on, you'll be able to hear it. If you're listening on laptop speakers, you're probably not going to hear the bass. And then the lead is being played by Taiga, this Taiga. I've moved this between two cases now and just set everything up, so the sound isn't exactly what it was before. It's close enough that I know what's going on, and I'll be able to dial it in. I've got plenty of time to do this stuff. But I wanted something very piano-y for the lead for this part. One thing I'm sort of struggling with, wondering what to do, is how to mix for live. I have high and low EQ on the first 4 channels here, but that's it. And typically, when I mix, if I would record this, and after the live performance, I will record it and put it up somewhere. But what I would typically do is, record each part and then go through and use Ableton to completely cut out the low end of the tracks that I don't need, because what normally happens is, synth like Taiga or really any of this stuff, there's always sort of a bubble of unnecessary low end information that I like to get rid of. And I have EQ on some of these channels, but not as much. So I guess in live it doesn't really matter as much, and I'll just worry about that when I record it properly. All the sequencing is being done with a Korg SQ64. It's this guy over here, the Korg. This is sequencing everything. I can do 3 lead lines with it and 16 drums. Right now I have 3 leads and 7 drums, and that's probably as complicated as I'll get. But I like that I can use then the fill, and it can then go through and add some chaos. It's not random in the same sense like the Electron. It's not as smart as the Electron is for determining when things play, but there is a fill percentage. So what I did was, for each sequence that I'm going to have, let's go back to this view here. Every sequence that I have in here, all the audio are pitched parts. I've gone through, and even if I'm not using the notes, I've put the notes somewhere in the context of the lines that they're playing, so that if I do use this fill feature, everything's going to be where I expect it to be, within reason. So if I turn all the notes on, it still sounds pretty good. It's a bit super chaotic, but it still sounds all right. voice isn't patched in at the moment, so. But I am using the MIDI to CV from this Taiga to control local parks into this low-pass gate here, into the Dynamics controller bat. And this is a bit more chaotic as well. I'm going to try to go into this performance with a good 30 minutes of interesting material and see how well that goes. Because I can always, if they want me to play for an hour or whatever, I can always stretch that out. But I don't want to have to stretch out sort of one pattern into however long. So it is. What I'm going to try to do is have, you know, like 15 or so different patterns and sort of blend between them over the course of however long it takes. This crow there's something weird. It should be super loud, and it's just not. Because remember, this has 75x gain, and it's just not there. It won't even drive it, so something is funny in this thing. And I'll take it to the shop tomorrow and fix it. This one was a production unit. This one was a prototype, so. And this is the first time I pulled this one out in quite a while. So I may have been messing around with it the last time, like half modded it, and then just moved on. But who knows? Clara McCoy asked about the mixer. Tell us about the mixer. I've been using this mixer for a while in the live jams with Herman. It's been in my case for quite a while, actually. It had tape on it, so you couldn't see the graphics. And the reason was the tape was covering up the little tufts of grass, because it's the same design language as Taiga. And I didn't want to show off the design language before Taiga came out. But this was sort of it was going to be a product, but once we got to the end, we realized, one, it was going to be too expensive, and two, it's sort of overly complicated. There's another half of it that I don't have in this case that is another 52 HP, so the whole thing together was 104 HP. But the gist of it is you have 4 channels that are sort of full channels that have gain with preamp that you can use for bringing stuff up to modular level or overdriving them. And then you could mute stuff, and you can solo stuff if you really wanted. It has headphones, it has an aux send that I have tied to a black hole reverb pedal right now. The first 4 channels had CVs and individual outputs, so if you wanted to use them as VCAs in your system, you could. And then there's 2 stereo channels and a 3rd stereo channel with gain that's meant to be the input from the top vert module and then you have independent aux sends and headphones, and it's a lot. It's too much, and it's not the right stuff, is what I learned after using it for about a year now. So we canceled this project with because we have a better solution. But it sounds phenomenal. It has the idea was to sort of emulate the vintage analog consoles. So we did that with the EQ. We did that with the way that you can overdrive the channels, the way that it adds some glue compression to the final mix. And so as a way for us to test this stuff and really experiment with it and try this stuff out, it was phenomenal at that. And we learned a ton, and we found out what really, really sounds good and what was sort of unnecessary in the context of performing live with a Eurorack setup. Because that's really the goal. The goal of this isn't to replace a mixer in your studio. It's really meant to be, this is the mixer for your Eurorack setup that you can use live. You can use it at home, but it's meant to be performative. So we've sort of stripped everything out. But this is a great way to learn about stuff. This has been fantastic, and I love the way it sounds. Which is why over the weekend I was bummed when I blew channel 1 with a static electricity zap. Fortunately, I was able to fix it today, swapping out an op amp, but that made me sad. So there we are. So that's sort of where I am with this stuff. Out that and stick in. This is Taiga now playing theoretically the same thing that the Local Parks was playing, but let's see. Chaotic. And that was the point of this particular track, was to be as chaotic as it could be. This Taiga this is an older panel revision, so it doesn't have the same firmware as this one, so all the LEDs sort of work backwards, and you can see here it's sine, triangle, saw, square. On this one, it's square, triangle, or square, saw, triangle, sine. Just to make things extra confusing for me when I'm messing around with it here. That's the delay. From this Taiga. This Taiga sounds nice. It sounds different than this one, though, and I can hear the difference. That's okay. The fact that it works at all is a miracle, because we hacked this thing pretty seriously. Sequence 64 is, for $129, it's fantastic. Beyond that, I don't know. This is the first time that I've tried to do sort of pre-sequenced music live, so for me, this is the best tool that I have. It was either use this or do it with an MPC, but that didn't seem, it's not my kind of style. So this seemed like the way for me to go. And it is performative, but when you're trying to do what I'm trying to do, it gets a little fiddly because you can pick the key and and all that stuff, and you can say, I want it in D minor or C major or whatever. But it doesn't automatically then throw all the notes in something that makes sense. You have to go through, and whether you're using the notes or not, you have to go through and program all 64 steps, because if you're using the fill, you need to know that if it randomly sticks a note there, it's going to be one that's in key. So little stuff like that. But if you're using it for drums, it's great. It does have the CV for 3 channels, which I'm not using. I'm using the MIDI in Taiga and in East Beast. It just seemed easier and faster to me. Fewer cables, maybe? I don't know. I didn't really think too deeply on it. I just threw MIDI in there. I have 2 MIDIs coming out of here because there's 2 independent MIDI jacks. One's going to East Beast, one's going to this Taiga, and then I'm just going MIDI out here into MIDI in on this Taiga. Easy. So I don't have much more as far as patterns go yet. They're all sort of a work in progress. But that's kind of part of the fun, I think. It took me about a week to get the setup to where I was happy with the choice of modules I had, the choice of sounds I had available to me, and the layout. I've laid it out a couple different times over the weekend, and I think this is where I'm at. I'm going to swap out this Taiga for one that pre-production unit so that they're the same, and it's easier for me to use then. Because like I said, this is an old firmware that it functions a little bit different, so to not have to wrap my brain around both of those at the same time is a good idea. And then the drum machine that I built over here, I think is really interesting. I initially didn't put the kick and the snare modules in there because I didn't want to use I didn't want anything to sound like traditional drums, which is why I ran each of the cymbals through filters and tried to sort of mess them up a bit, because I want things to sound sort of bubbly and quirky. Not quite there yet with everything, but it's I think it's getting there. Really love the sounds that these two drums are making. I think they're very nice. The tiger roll. Not sure if I would trust that. But I'm a huge fan of sushi, so I would certainly give it a try. But I'm skeptical. Yeah, I kind of get it. There's no perfect sequencer out there for me either. This is really, it's the only one I've ever really tried to use in this format. I've always just played something in on a keyboard into Ableton and then just dragged around the little rectangles until I got what I wanted. So that's how I've recorded everything and made music in the past. So this is a different setup for me. And I love the instant interaction you can have with it. But it's a little fiddly when you really want to get in and get it right. It takes a little longer than I'm used to, but maybe that's just because I'm not quite there yet with it. And that's fair. Yeah, the Oxy looks really... All those sequencers look really cool to me. I don't know. I kind of dig them all. I went on a sequencer research binge about 3 months ago where I watched every conceivable video I could find on YouTube about modern sequencers. And for the price at $129 US, this is ridiculous. It was hard to, for what I do, hard to justify much else. And as long as it can remember my sequences that I build up over the next month, I should be okay. I won't. And it's nice and small. It fits on my pedal board. I'm a fan. See, for me, doing stuff on the fly is so important because this is an exception to what I normally do. What I normally do, is the type of jamming I do with Herman and Bus. And for that, I need to play something in really fast and just essentially have a looper. And the SQ64 does a reasonable job with that. The biggest problem with the SQ64 really is the manual. It's really, really bad. Almost unreadable. So it's taken me way longer than it should have to sort of understand how to do things. But as I've used it, I have learned a bit more and I'm getting much better at it. But I feel like it shouldn't have taken that long. But really, so far for my live set, this is my hit song. And then I have a couple other bits of another song. And that's where I'm going. What I don't want to do when I perform is just run these loops ad nauseum. So I wanted to keep moving. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to the next challenge then is to say, okay, and I'm going to have to practice this as well, because I'm going to have to be able to say, okay, now how do I jump from one sound to another? Like, I'm going to need to change the sound at some point, right, during the show, so I'm going to have to sort of memorize this sound, which, to be fair, isn't terribly complicated. This is very similar to the sound I used in one of the intro videos. So it's 3 sine waves, modulating very slowly 2 of the sine waves. They're all sort of shaped differently. That's pretty much it. Then it's, you know, the feel is all in the envelopes. It's in low pass gate pluck mode. And that's that. I was playing last night with the delay on it. I don't have it on right now. But I like the lushness I can get from it. Using the delay here into the Roland Space Echo pedal. But I just have to dial it in. I just have to spend the time. What I've learned doing this over the years and, you know, jamming with Herman and all that is it's easy to throw something fast, but taking the time to making stuff sound really good it makes a huge difference. Cole says I could put some random LFO on the pitch or EQ. I certainly could. I could patch the filter cutoff. Yeah, because at this point, all these sounds are really just basic sounds. I still have to go through and really dig into it. And that's kind of the fun of doing this stuff, is just sort of listening and then using your understanding of the instrument to create what's in your head and to sort of smooth out all the areas that you perceive aren't quite right. Because there's nothing wrong with the way this sounds, but I think it could be more complex, and that's what I'm hoping to go for. Another weird thing with the SQ64 is it doesn't like, you can't select two different patterns at the same time and expect them to both start at the same time. So I have to play with that. I think I have something set up with less than 64 steps somewhere, and that is giving me some guff with everything always lining up. And most stuff it doesn't really matter, but for a few things it really does. Yeah, the used voltage labs are ridiculous, and I'm sorry for that. We should have made more. But we do have another one coming. And it's going to be big, and it's going to sound amazing. If you think of the differences in the sort of evolution of the SV1 to Taiga, just do the same thing with the Voltage Lab to the Voltage Lab 2. This sound is neat, but I don't. There we go. If I turn the delay off on the Taiga, that's a little better. The idea is to run this sound, sort of chaotic sound, through a phase shifter pedal. But that's all the way over there, so for now, we'll pretend with our minds. If I ever sell alternate faceplates for Taiga, I'd love to see one with the bear shown on Taiga marketing materials, t-shirts. I don't think so. The whole point of the Taiga panels in this design language was I wanted it to be really subtle. And I wanted it to sort of get out of the way and be a guide to the interface and not really disruptive in any way. So I don't have any plans to do one with a bear on it. But it couldn't be very hard to put a sticker on there. Just get a print a bear sticker out and put it on. It's pretty easy. Maybe that's what we'll do from now on. We'll just do stickers. Like the Electron stuff. This could also use delay because it's not hectic enough. What do you think? worth trying. And I've stolen the delay from the top taiga there. And then maybe instead of sweating the delay length, we just stick it on an LFO. Jacks on this taiga aren't what the label says they are, making it even more fun to use. So let's find the... There it is. I had to find the LFO output. The triangle output is obviously channel 1 in the mixer section. Because why wouldn't it be? Chris, that's a really nice way to put it. The oscillators have an interesting quality, kind of like before a thunderstorm, silvery and tangy. Silvery and tangy. Tonight I'm drinking, this is strawberry and banana Crystal Light. It's pretty weird tasting. I think it's kind of cool that you can replace panels and people are making alternative panels for stuff. I think it's cool. It just shows that we have a thriving community and everyone's sort of doing interesting stuff. Using an LFO on the delay length, you can hear when the delay gets really long, you can hear the clock aliasing. I don't know why I'm pointing to my head, but I can hear it in my ear. You can hear the clock coming through. I think this is nice and chaotic. I don't know what to use with this. That's what I was using before. million patch cables to my right, and every time I go to pick one up, it's this long. And that doesn't help me at all. I think what this sound needs, though, and I don't know why I just don't use this whole tag over here, but I'm not gonna, is a filter. Yeah, see, that's what I want. Something super bubbly. And that's just, I'm using the blade wave here from the local parks oscillator, which is being modulated by the internal LFO really slowly. Grizz Christofferson, which is an awesome name, by the way. I love it. Asks, Richard, are you behind a lot of the video work for PM marketing videos? If so, could you speak a little to your video setup? Love the analog character of those. Yeah, I make all those videos. I have the Pittsburgh Modular team sort of sometimes begrudgingly joins me on my little video adventures, but yeah, I do all the filming, and then I do all of the editing, and yeah. I have someone help me out with the scripts to make sure everything's concise. But yeah, the process is pretty straightforward. You know, we write the script, and then 2 or 3 of us go run around the woods, and we film everything from a couple different angles. I have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera that we use to film as much as possible with, because I like the way it looks. And then I've got a couple Sony cameras I use as well. That's what I'm using. I use the Sony cameras here because they focus where the Blackmagic one doesn't have autofocus. And then I just suck everything into Final Cut Pro and just destroy it with plugins. But the whole idea is to make it look kind of retro and give it a vibe. I don't even know if it looks super retro sometimes. It just looks kind of broken and destroyed. Like a bad TV signal. And that's what I'm going for. And most of that stuff is just you know, playing with all the plugins in Final Cut Pro. These videos do take a long time, though. Like the announcement video for Taiga took me about 2 weeks to make and edit. I struggle a lot of times with the music on those things. So what I'll do is I'll sort of do a basic edit of the video. Right. Just sort of line up the clips the way I want them to go, and then I try to write a soundtrack, and then I make sure all of the clips sort of hit the beats on the soundtrack so it has a flow to it. And making a soundtrack is painful for me. It's a long process. And then once I have the structure of the soundtrack, trying to use the soundtrack, I end up editing the soundtrack at the same exact time that I'm editing the video. So once I have the sort of themes of the soundtrack, I then have to make it match the length of the segments and whatnot. And it's a going back and forth process that takes a long time. But I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. I think video editing has certainly become a hobby of mine that I absolutely love. Grayscale panels are great. That company's great. I have a couple, they also do the 1979 Buchla modules. I have a couple of those behind me here in my little buchla. I think they sound amazing. If you like the videos, don't worry. I made 15 of them for Taiga, so we're going to do 2 a week for the next foreseeable future. Monday mornings and Thursday mornings, everything's scheduled for. Some of them get a little weird. As they go, they get weirder, because I figured less people are going to be paying attention as these videos, you know, as the weeks go by. So as the weeks go by, the videos are going to get weirder and weirder, and I think that's a good thing. Final Cut usable, or is it weird and in Mac like iMovie has become? No, Final Cut Pro is fantastic. I've used that, and I've used DaVinci, and I'm so much faster in Final Cut, but I don't feel limited at all. There's a couple, every now and then if I want to do like a really crazy special effect, I'll do it in DaVinci and then export it, but 98% of what I do is way faster and much easier to do in Final Cut Pro. I just know it really well, but it's not limiting at all. When does Taiga drop officially? There's no official date yet. They're en route. So, as we learn more, you will learn more. But with the world that it is, once something's on a ship, sometimes it takes 2 weeks, sometimes it takes 3 weeks. You know, you're never really sure. So we don't want to promise an exact date and then be wrong. We also don't want to promise a date and have it, you know, have the stuff way earlier. So as soon as we know, I will shout it from the rooftops. But everything is in transit, and we're saying end of the month. Have my money for a Taiga and a VL2. Well, Vincent's Video Visions. I appreciate that. Taiga and the Voltage Lab 2 are quite a pair. Really an amazing team. I've been lucky enough to have a Taiga now for about a year. And I've had a working Voltage Lab, well, a half-working Voltage Lab now for 3 or 4 months, and yeah, they complement each other so well sonically, and how you interact with them, and what they're good at, because the interfaces are so different and you approach them so differently. They work really, really well together. And they do really cover different sonic territory. Even though they both, you know, are sort of grounded with the dynamic circuit. This case is 360, so it's 120 per row. Alex asks, have I ever offered DIY kits? The first module we did, the Vilfo, I offered it as a kit, and I may have sold one or two before I realized that that's not something I was into. I'm not, this is going to sound crazy, I'm not a natural teacher. I'm not into sort of micromanaging and that type of thing. So I'm more, here's this thing, enjoy. That, and from a business standpoint, DIY, at that point when it was just me in my basement, it didn't make sense. I couldn't manage that many things. Steven asks, do you do all the code development? I used to. Now I do most of it. The team we work with now at the factory, on Taiga, for example, they sent, when I sent them the original schematic, it had the MCU on it, and then they sent me the first prototype, and they did all the sort of underlying code. I would call it the boring code. All the code that says, okay, let's keep an eye on this button, and let's keep an eye on the MIDI input. So I then take that information and just sort of tell it what to do. So I'll say, okay, if you press this button, you need to change the LED. You also need to change the analog switching in the back so that it knows which waveform to let go to the mixer and which waveforms that you dump to ground, that kind of thing. So I do most of the coding, but they do what I would consider the boring stuff, and frankly the stuff that I don't have time to fully understand. So that is that. What coding language do I use? C++. We use the software we use is called Keil, Keil. It's the ARM development environment. It's not my favorite. I much prefer writing for Arduinos because I can do it in the Microsoft Code. And code is free. And Keil costs me, I want to say, I just bought it recently. How much was it? I just paid, I think it was $6,000 or something like that. I don't know. It's absurdly expensive. But it is what it is. Yoda says, does the factory do 100% of the assembly? As in at Pittsburgh shop, do you guys just do final calibration testing before shipping out? No, we don't do any of that stuff anymore with the instruments. So we've been sort of building up to this with the... I'm going to change the... I need to change the sounds every now and then or I'm going to lose my mind. Anyway, so we've sort of been building up to this with the Captain Big O was the first, then the Function Junction, and the East Beast and West Beast. Those are assembled, calibrated, boxed up, and shipped directly from the factory to the warehouse. We have two warehouses. We have one in Germany, and we have one in, I want to say, Minneapolis, I think. And then those go to the distributors from there. If you order it direct from us, if you order Taiga direct from us, it's the same thing as that. It would ship directly from one of those warehouses. It doesn't actually go through us. We are still doing the modules because they're really small batch hand-built stuff, but the instruments, we don't see them. Now, we have spent an enormous amount of time, and this is what Perry's been doing really for the past 3 years, is creating testing and calibration protocols and ways to make sure that every instrument is consistent and everything matches Perry's level of expectations. Because Perry, like you said in one of the videos, that he calibrated every single SV1. And in the video, I think he said 3,000 something. He just made up that number on the spot, but it was at least 3,000. I think closer to 4,000. So he has a really, no one knows it better than him, and he also understands where the tolerances are and where you need to get stuff in. So he's been doing an amazing job sort of focusing on that. As long as it isn't subscription based. No, it's not subscription based, but I only get updates for 3 years. So it's really that much money for 3 years, and then I have to buy it again. And that's for 2 computers, and only one can be used at a time. So it's really, they lock that shit down. It's not even fun to use. Like I don't know. That soft. I'm not a big fan of Keel, but it does work. But it is kind of what it is. Between Keel for writing the code and using Altium to write the schematics, it gets expensive really fast. The schematic software we use, Altium, I think it costs $350 a month. That's another one where we can only afford 1 license. Fortunately, you can use it on any computer. So what we'll do at the shop is, before we open up a schematic, we'll yell around the shop to see if anyone has it open. And if they do, we'll ask them if they're done, or to let us know when they are done so we can open it. Because we just have to sort of pass around the license. And it works 99% of the time. Only one of us is sort of digging into that stuff anyway, so it's just one of those things. It's just a little speed bump, but at $350 a month, we're not going to get a second license. That would be crazy. What do we use previous to Altium? We used a couple different things. The thing we used most though was Eagle, and we still do the Safari modules. Anything that we build at the shop, we still do in Eagle. Mostly because we can all have it open at the same time. And it's just, we know it so well that it's the fastest way for us to do stuff. We don't know Altium all the way through. I don't know Altium all the way through. I know Perry doesn't either. We know what we need to know. Because we're working with the team now at the factory, they have taken over some of those Altium side of things, which is nice. But at the same time, that means we don't always necessarily have the full picture. But it is what it is. That gives us more time to do more interesting things. haven't heard of the Daisy Seed microcontroller DSP platform. We don't do any DSP. Everything, or I certainly don't write any DSP. I was a coder for a long time before I started Pittsburgh Modular, and I burned out hard on math. So my general rule is I don't do anything that requires math, like serious math. Obviously, you know, figuring out resistor values and whatnot, you pull out the calculator. But to do like hardcore DSP stuff, no, I have no interest in that at all. I like doing sort of programming puzzles, which, you know, sequencers are essentially just puzzles. I like doing that kind of stuff, and I like doing firmware for instruments because, again, it's just a puzzle. It's sort of turn on these switches, turn off these switches, and light this stuff up. You know, that kind of stuff's fun, but we don't do DSP. At some point we will, but it'll be someone else, someone new on the team doing that for us, because it's not something that makes me smile. Yeah, Bill, Altium is great. What Altium really has well is their library of parts is unprecedented. There hasn't been a single part yet I've had to build. It's just they all exist, which is unbelievable. But it's complex. For someone coming from Eagle, and someone that had used only Eagle for 12 years, it's a professional tool. But like I said, we have great engineers on our team at the factory that do amazing work. Have a guy named Young Jen that laid out Taiga, the PCBs for Taiga. Did an amazing job. G1 wrote the low-level firmware on it. And I thanked all those guys in the manual because, you know, they did amazing work. We're all sort of one team. And it's nice to be able to hand off some of that stuff sometimes. There's some stuff I have problems handing off, but not that. Like, I would struggle to hand off doing a video for a product because I enjoy that deeply, and I would struggle handing off panel design, you know, those kind of things. But we'll see. Maybe someday. Alex asks, what's the favorite part of the work you do at Pittsburgh Modular? Design, business, marketing, jamming on the machines you make. Yeah, jamming's pretty awesome. That's my favorite. It's not the business. I don't do any of the business stuff, really. Danielle handles the business side of the business. I'm not a money person. Like, money doesn't, I don't think of money, I think the same way most people think of money. So putting me in charge of it is not a good thing. Marketing, my interest in marketing sort of is in making the videos. I have an absolute blast making the videos, but I'm not on social media, and I'm not terribly good at answering email quickly, so doing actual marketing I'm terrible at. Fortunately, the Create guys are very, very good at that stuff, so they've sort of picked up where I fail on that end. I do love design. I love staring at Adobe Illustrator all day, moving knobs a little to the left and a little to the right, making it exactly perfect. Designing a new instrument, all the while managing all the schematics in my head so that as I design the front panel, I know exactly what the back end looks like. That I do really, really enjoy. I did that recently, a couple weeks ago, with 3 new things that hopefully will be out, well, probably 2024. But the idea, you think of something in your head, you put it down, and once I sort of get everybody on board and sort of sell it to the teams, then it's a really quick matter of, okay, let's just get the schematic out of my brain, put it down, and send it off. So I was able to do that with some really cool stuff really efficiently. Yeah, everything's done in C++. We use Nicol, which is the ARM development environment. And what I do is I can't undersell my coding skills enough with this stuff. I don't like doing math, so it's like I said, I was a coder for 15 years. And I sort of burned out. So now my coding is just turning switches on and off and routing signals around. I enjoy that. It's like solving puzzles. But all the underlying stuff, I have another engineer on my team manage the sort of boring, complicated bits. Because I don't have the patience. Yeah, I'm terrible with email. I'm sorry. I get so much email. I can't. I'm sure everybody's the same way, but like I have things I have to do. I'm sorry. Typically, what happens with my email is everything gets filtered through Danielle. Danielle sends as much of it as humanly possible to Perry and to Ross and to the team at Create. And she gives me as little as possible because she knows I'm absolutely horrible. Banjo Lab. Wouldn't that be awesome? I would love banjo. Absolutely love a banjo. Bill Smith asks, am I mostly self-taught when it comes to circuit design? No. Everything I know about circuit design I learned from Michael Johnson, who's been an unbelievable mentor, an unbelievable teacher, unbelievably patient and kind with his time to teach me at my pace what I wanted to learn when I wanted to learn it, and correct all my mistakes and explain to me why they were mistakes and explain to me little things I need to know here and there. Michael is a genius with that stuff. Everything we do comes out of his brain first. I simply take it and shape it into an instrument. But the core, the raw circuitry is all stuff that he developed. Now, he may have developed it based on conversations we've had, like, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if you did this, or I would love if something did that, but all of the innovative research that we've done, or really everything, has been Michael's brain. And then I take it and I plop it down. So to me, circuitry is a lot like coding. It's just taking blocks and sticking them together. So everything I do always goes through Michael before it goes anywhere else. He's, he'll look over it, make sure I haven't made any horrible mistakes. And then we go from there. Have I ever looked into making a hardware video synthesizer? No, because I really enjoy video synthesizers. I like playing with analog video feedback. Let me switch my camera here. Over here, you can see all my sort of video toys, which are turned on right now, but I don't have any interest in making one because I really enjoy using these, and that's good enough for me. I have had a big LZX system at one point. I've had a small LZX system. I've had the Vidiot. I've had that stuff, but none of that stuff really did what I wanted it to do. I like the video feedback stuff. So for me, this is the perfect setup. It's a bunch of circuit bent stuff. And I love it. Yeah, it's super fun. Michael Johnson does teach a class at CMU. I don't know if that makes him I guess that makes him a professor. I don't know. He used to teach classes at Pittsburgh Center for the Arts, but he does not. I think they stopped. That organization has come on some tough times, as a lot of places have recently, and I don't think they're doing synth classes anymore. His classes were great. I took one many years ago when I first met him, called Circuit Building 1, and then later on I took Circuit Building 2. And it was basically him teaching you how to solder. And the first class, you built a crackle box. And I can't remember what we built in Circuit Building 2. I think I made a touch strip controller for my modular using some VHS tape as the touch surface. Very cool. Because there was a specific kind of VHS tape that you could use as a resistor. So what you would do is you'd take, this is going to get very DIY, you'd take a mini blind and coat the inside of it with metal tape, like actual metal duct tape. And then you cut the VHS tape into a triangle the length of your mini blind and stick it under there, and then when you press down on the mini blind, it completes the circuit and you have a variable resistor the length. And it was perfect. It worked so well. A weird DIY thing. Yeah, I made that many years ago, but that was one of Michael's ideas. It would be cool if Pittsburgh Modular did the soundtrack for the upcoming Romero's Twilight of the Dead. I don't have the skills to do that, but a good friend of mine, high school friend of mine, Steve Moore, who's in a band called Zombie, would kill at that. He would be so good. So hopefully Steve would get to do that, because I know Steve does a bunch of soundtracks. And I sent him a Taiga a few weeks ago. He said he would have something to send me soon, so that I'm really looking forward to that. If you haven't checked out Zombie, absolutely worth checking out their music. ZOMBI. Steve and A.E. Patera are just amazing, and it's that style of music. So that sort of well, in my mind, that sort of 70s Italian horror film kind of stuff. I love it. What was your first modular system like, and when? So many manufacturers now. My first modular was a synthesizers.com, and it would have been about 15 years ago. And it was great. I sold it to fund the first Pittsburgh Modules, the Vilfos. Later on, I ended up buying another .com system because we were asked to make a clone of some specific Moog modular case, and which we did, but then they decided it was too expensive. So I'm trying to think what I did with that case. I think at some point I just ended up throwing it away because I didn't want to sell it. That's kind of what happens with a lot of prototypes, is you sort of break them and throw them away or burn them. Yeah, Yotis, check out Zombie. They are fantastic. Very, very good band. I'm a huge fan. It's just the two of them. Steve plays keyboards and bass and sometimes guitar all at the same time, and Anthony plays the drums, and it's super cool. All right, I think the problem with doing this live stream was I had specific stuff I wanted to do tonight, and then I just ended up chatting and didn't do any of it. That's okay. It doesn't matter. It was nice to relax. So if you guys have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, I am going to turn this off and go upstairs where it's warmer and watch a YouTube video or two and then go to sleep. I've been watching train videos recently, like people traveling by train, and then I just fall asleep. It's great. Yeah, heliospherical dread. I know the zombie guys. Steve and I grew up together. We went to high school together. We were in the same high school band together. I have, we used to record 4 tracks in my basement growing up every weekend. So I have 4-track cassettes of Steve and I rapping and doing every conceivable every conceivable style of music. I have cassette tapes of Steve and I doing it. It was very interesting. The rapping especially. So we recorded Smoke on the Water and then rapped over it because that seemed like the thing to do at the time. Steve clearly was the better musician. He was one of those dudes that always, if you gave him an instrument in 10 minutes, he had mastered it. It was very frustrating because I was not like that at all. I'm certainly a hobbyist. He is a professional. Hi, Herman. Herman's in Chicago this week, so we're not going to be jamming. Scammer Payback. Kit Boga. I don't know what. I'll have to look at those. No, I don't rap. That doesn't mean I didn't try in high school. We used to for our vocals, we would slow the tapes down and then record our vocals and then play it back at normal speed, so we sounded like we were on helium. It was very ridiculous. If I ever yeah, those are fun. But I'm sure, we used to be really goofy. But for us, the whole point was to record and to write music and to play music. So that was our entire weekend. We would just get together. Whoever was there was sort of in the band that night, and we would just write and record 2 or 3 songs. And we did it every day. And then the summertime, we literally did it every day. We did hundreds and hundreds of songs. Because the point wasn't perfection or anything. The point was just we loved doing it. And it was so much fun. It was great. Absolutely great. It makes me smile to even think about it. You want to hear Nicol rap? Nicol's actually one of the funniest people I've ever met. I don't know if I've ever heard him rap, but he is ridiculously silly. And that's good enough. No, I'm not going to be ever spitting out a freestyle. Although at the last couple jams we've had, a couple of the guests Herman had were sort of freestyling to themselves behind us as we were playing. So at some point we'll get a microphone that they can use to actually join us, and that'll be pretty cool. Yeah, I think everybody wants more Nicol, but it's logistically challenging to get Nicol in more videos. He'll always do it's easy for him to do the film videos, but to get him here in the evenings to do these it's difficult. So I don't think it's gonna happen. But every now and then he's happy to come over and do something. But it's not gonna be a ton. That is how we met. We met at a rap battle. Yes. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna go because I just looked, there's 33 people watching. That's crazy. I've been playing the same sequencer loop now for a half an hour. But I appreciate everybody hanging out. And I have all this stuff set up. Like I said, I'm working towards performance, so hopefully this evolves and gets more interesting as the weeks go by. And if it does, I will maybe do a daytime live stream from the shop. Herman, you know how much pain in the ass it is to set up stuff when all the cameras are there and ready to go. To do one from the shop would be impossible. We don't have any cameras or anything at the shop, which is why it would be impossible. The cameras at Herman's studio stay at Herman's studio and are ready to go. And the same with these. These are, unless I've been filming for the last couple months, so they've sort of been in a bag. But for the most part, these cameras are sort of hung up and ready to go in my basement here. So it is what it is. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to go get some more Crystal Light and then get ready to go to bed. Bye, everybody.